Saying no using a calm, relaxed tonality, not chasing them when they withdraw, making them responsible for their actions, going at your pace and sticking to your pace, and returning to difficult conversations. Let's talk about 5 things in this video that toxic people hate, which gets rid of them and makes them go bother someone else. Welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. It's great to have you here. Let's dive straight into these. So number 1 is saying no in a calm, relaxed tonality. Now, the tonality piece is important because we all know boundaries and saying no is important to setting boundaries. Saying yes is sometimes to setting boundaries as well. We should add that caveat. But saying no to a toxic person in a way that communicates you don't need them to agree with you is much more powerful than a typical no. So it might sound something like this. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, no, it's not really for me. No, that doesn't interest me. Do you notice the relaxed, calm tonality at the end? We've got a slight neutral or downward inflection there. We're not saying, oh, no, I don't know, it's not really for me. I don't think so. No, I'm not doing that. The forceful tonality, the second one I demonstrated there, shows that you're weak in your boundaries. Toxic people love that. The earlier tonality, the one with the upward inflection, shows a lack of confidence. The most important thing that you need with a respected no that pushes a toxic person away is one where the person goes, oh, this person doesn't actually care what happens next. That's going to make toxic people go and basically bother someone else in lieu of you. So when you say it with that tonality, you're essentially communicating, you're over there, I'm here, I'm not going to try to prove as to why you're in the right position or why I'm in the right position, blah, blah, blah. I'm just stating where I am and nothing's going to change that. So that's very powerful. I know it's such a simple thing, but that, yeah, no, not for me. You're not seeking any rapport. You're not upward inflecting. You're not desperately trying to prove using anger to force it down their throat. That shows how confident you are. Number 2, not chasing them when they withdraw. One of the things that toxic people do is they're not very good at conflict. So they start trying to get their needs met by ways that don't make them vulnerable. One of the best ways to do that is to pull away, withdraw attention. Instead of coming to you verbally, they'll start to use their non-verbals to manipulate you so that you are constantly chasing them. This isn't to say there is not a time and place to use actions rather than words with your boundaries. Of course there is, especially early in dating. But what you will find with toxic people is even when you're further along in dating, in fact, more often when you're further along, because that's when things get scarier, that's when you get closer, that's when someone is more vulnerable, the cracks in their self-esteem start to show. They're no longer able to put on this facade of someone who's great at relationships, can come to the difficult conversations, can be all confident and discuss the important topics. They will simply start to pull away to get their needs met, to essentially achieve something with you in the relationship because they're too scared to bring it up. It feels too vulnerable for them. It makes them feel weak doing that. That weakness triggers their trauma. They don't want to put themselves in a weak position. It brings up times from their past when they were put in a weak position by some sort of perpetrator, and then they're pulling away, and you're starting to have to mind read them. After a time, you start to realize, oh God, I'm like running around on eggshells trying to figure out what this person wants because they're not speaking about it. So it makes you more and more insecure and frantic because you don't really know what they want. You're trying to mind read them. This is a frustration actually I hear from men as well as women, if not more, is, oh, she's pulling away and I don't know what she wants or she's not saying it. Often this one's led by fear of confrontation of the person who's toxic. So you want to make sure that you're not essentially chasing someone around to do the difficult conversations for them. You can, of course, intuit that something is wrong and curiously inquire about that. Hey, like I noticed you kind of like pulled away a bit or maybe didn't seem to like when I said that. Is there something you want to share? You can prompt a little bit. But if you're chasing them around, trying to figure it out, it's going to get very icky for you because essentially you're chasing around their triggers and trying to kind of mind read them to figure out how to not set them off and how to not make them leave you, not pull their love away. And because you don't know the extent of their triggers, you don't know the extent of their neurology before they met you, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to predict that. And it's going to get very anxiety inducing. It's like predicting the weather. Eventually you're going to get it wrong and then the person's going to get more resentful and then you're in this cycle. So making sure that you don't chase them when they pull away and don't reward that behavior with more attention and more focus. You can call it out and you can set a standard with it and say, hey, when you pull away like that, I feel this, and in the long term, I'm not going to be okay with a relationship where this is a consistent pattern. Would you be open to sitting down and talking about this or expressing what you want or need from me? But at that point, if the person continues to pull away, if they continue to not be present, there's only so much you can do, as in move towards them, before you just got to let them go. Because otherwise you'll chase them around and you'll get so anxious and frustrated doing so that it's going to be very toxic for you. And that, by the way, is how trauma spreads. Someone hurt them, which affects their relationship skills. They're unable to talk about it, and suddenly their inability to talk about it starts to hurt you. So the original person who had nothing to do with you starts to spew their stuff through the middle person onto you. That's why trauma is contagious, and that's what basically we mean when we say a toxic person. Someone who's going to spread the trauma from their past and people in their past, bleh, onto you. Number 3, make them responsible for their actions. Toxic people hate this. They hate being made responsible for their actions. They like to play the victim a lot, and they do not like to accept responsibility that things went wrong for reasons that they led to. At the end of the day, we are all responsible for our realities. Now, sometimes it can feel nice to blame something else, and sure, accidents happen that we could never have foreseen. But especially after enough time has passed, especially after patterns start to develop, there is only one person responsible for a person's reality, and that is themselves. That's it. So blame shifting, someone saying, well, I couldn't do this because the world, because the politics, because of men, because of women, this is why I'm struggling. It's like, no, you're struggling because of your own lack of creativity. You're struggling because you haven't figured out a way to get out of this. You're struggling because you haven't tried enough things. And I see this with dating apps all the time. People come to me and they're like, it's not work. It's the dating app's fault. And I say to them, hey, there's like 10, 15% of people out there, including my clients, who are having great success. Just do what they do. And they're still going, nah, it can never work for me. There's something special or unlucky about me. I'm like, nope. You got to take responsibility for your reality. Otherwise, you're going to be a victim to the reality that's out there. And if you're with that person, they're going to make you or something else around the perpetrator while they remain helpless. You can't save them. All you can do is make them responsible and see if they take you up on it. Number 4 is going at your pace. So this is a particular one relating to dating, sticking to your pace, I should say. Toxic people like to do everything their way. And when it comes to either A, love bombers, or people who are going to get you hooked and then essentially discard you or use you, or people on the other side of the spectrum, men on the other side of the spectrum, who just want to drag you along for months or years in a situationship, neither of them will be able to sustain a healthy pace. As in, let's look to be exclusive by 10 to 12 weeks. Let's be having a couple of dates a week, maybe 3 by that point. And so first month, we're having 1 date or so. Second month, 1.5 to 2. Third month, 2 dates. Then we're exclusive. Toxic people won't be able to have a healthy pace. Any type of love bomber, as I say, any type of player who wants to drag you along, the cracks will show in their game by you just sticking to your pace. Love bombers, they will try to go too fast. They'll get frustrated. They'll try to convince you. They'll say, no, don't you just feel it like I do? Why are you slowing down? And then they will not slow down and respect you. Good guys will, but they won't. And on the other end of the spectrum, when it gets to 6 weeks and you can see a particular guy trailing off or trying to put you in the player zone where he can just situationship you, he is going to get spat out. When you say, look, if you don't want to move things forward, I'm going to go date a couple of these great other guys that I've got in the funnel. They're not going to handle that. They're either going to have to change themselves significantly to be with you, in which case they might have actually been a good guy in the first place, or they're just going to go bother someone else. So that's a great way to immunize yourself from them in early dating, is make sure that you're setting the pace. That doesn't mean you can't sort of listen to his pace, and if he wants to go a little bit faster or a little bit slower, you guys can meet in the middle. But a lot of toxic people have a lot of off-pacing in dating. So one way you can prevent it is by making sure you go slow and steady. Take your time, not too much time. Take your time, but when you hit that 10 to 12 week mark, being like, all right, shit will get off the pot. What are we doing here? I've got videos on how to have that conversation if you want to watch those. And finally, returning to difficult conversations. One of the big things toxic people do is they might start a difficult conversation, or at least engage in one if you start it, but they're not going to want to come back to it. They're going to say, oh, yeah, give me time to think about that. I don't know. I'll have to ponder it. Yeah, maybe. So anyway, what are we doing this weekend? Da-da-da. They'll dodge the topic. When you come back to it, they will get increasingly frustrated with you because they won't Toxic people won't be able to have the difficult conversations very well. And even if they can for a while, eventually cracks will show in their veneer. If you do all the things I mentioned in this video, saying no to them in the right tonality, making sure you don't chase them when they pull away, giving them responsibility for their actions, making sure you stick at your pace. If you do all these things and then you test them on the difficult conversations, there aren't any toxic people that are going to be able to get through that. Not real toxic ones. There can be people with a little bit of trauma that can come up later. Sure, everyone has some to some degree. But truly toxic people, if you do these things, there's just so many other easy to manipulate women out there. Toxic people will not bother with you, or even men, right? Toxic people will not bother with you if you do these 5 things. So come back to those difficult conversations. Don't let them be palmed off. Make sure you return to them until there's a satisfactory resolution that resonates with both people. And as long as you do that, as long as you're holding the relationship accountable for those conversations and not letting him just palm them aside, any toxic person is eventually going to go, you know what, this woman is too much trouble. As I say, there's so many easier to manipulate people out there. I'm just going to go focus on one of them and they'll disappear. So 5 big things you can do there. I hope that helps you never run into a toxic person, or at least get rid of them very quickly if you do. And if you want a really healthy guy, make sure you book in a call with me. I've got my no man, no fee guarantee. You can check it out. I'll explain to you how it works and stuff, but check out the link in the description for that. Leave a comment with your thoughts. I'd love to hear that as well. And otherwise, hit the subscribe button with the little bell. Give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one very soon.